revealed how a rejected bride turned her pain into an incredible life-changing opportunity. Sarah stood in the town square, her heart shattering into a million pieces as her fiancé declared in front of their friends, family, and townsfolk that he was unable to commit to their wedding just days away. It felt as if every breath she took was choked by the whispers that slinked between her like shadows, filled with pity and disbelief. She could see it on their faces, a mix of shock and embarrassment. All Sarah wanted was the ground to swallow her whole. Days passed, but the remnants of that moment stayed etched in her mind. Questions twisted and turned in her gut. How could he do this? How could she face the world again? The walls of her life felt like they were closing in, suffocating her with self-doubt. Seeking solace, Sarah fled to her family's farm, the only place that ever felt like home. She arrived late at night, the stars twinkling like distant promises, but her heart was heavy. Her parents embraced her with warmth that seeped deep into her bones, and for the first time in days, tears fell, this time not from embarrassment but from gratitude for unconditional love. But as she looked around, the farm revealed its own struggles. The barn's wooden beams creaked, and the fields were overgrown, choked by weeds. They weren't just fighting financial strain, they were fighting to keep their family legacy alive. Determined to heal through hard work, Sarah rolled up her sleeves. She learned to ride the tractor again, feeling the rust vibrate beneath her hands, each bump in the field echoing her own painful journey. As she dug her hands in the soil, she unearthed not just potatoes, but buried stories of resilience from local veterans whose own battles bore witness to the strength of their community, their laughter, their tears, woven into the fabric of the town. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As days passed, Sarah's vision for the farm began to shift. This was not just a family farm, it could be a thriving, sustainable business. The dream took root, and soon her neighbors, a patchwork of familiar faces, began to rally around her. They shared their own burdens, and together they sowed seeds of hope, reviving the land once more. But just as she thought they were gaining momentum, a wealthy developer appeared, armed with a pile of cash and promises of luxury homes. The land, once a sanctuary, now dangled on the edge of peril. At a town hall meeting, Sarah stood among her neighbors, mingling joy and fear. A decision loomed large: embrace easy profits or fight for their shared history. Voices clashed, echoing the pain of past grievances and the deep bond of their collective memories. As Sarah raised her voice, the air crackled with a mix of emotions, determination and doubt swirled thick like storm clouds. She felt her heart race. Would they remember the roots of their community? Standing at the junction of her healing and their future, Sarah could only hope for a light to pierce through the gathering darkness, a reminder of everything they had to fight for. In this pivotal moment, the weight of their choice hung heavily in the air, and uncertainty wrapped around her like an old, heavy coat. The story of their town and her journey was interwoven, but would they choose togetherness over prosperity? The outcome remained a whisper away, waiting to be revealed. The room buzzed with conversation, the energy a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Sarah stood at the front of the gathering, her heart pounding in sync with the rhythmic clapping from the crowd as she concluded her speech. She had bared her soul, sharing her story not only of rejection but of resilience. It was no longer just her fight, it had become a collective battle. Yet, beneath the encouraging applause, doubt clawed at her insides. Would they really stand together? Or was it too easy for them to get swept away by the promises of the developer, who painted a glossy picture of prosperity with just a few strokes of his pen? As the evening wore on, Sarah's mind raced, grappling with worry and hope intermingled. Conversations shifted sharply, voices rising and falling like the tide. Some neighbors carved out corners, whispering anxiously. Others leaned into the developer's charms, discussing how they could finally see financial relief after years of struggle. Sarah felt a wave of nausea swirl in her stomach. The feeling of betrayal stung. They were abandoning what they had fought to preserve. "Look, I understand what he is offering," she started, her voice trembling but firm. "But this is our home, our history. We can't just trade it for a quick buck. I mean, think about the memories we've built here. Do we really want to bury them for some luxury apartments?" A few murmurs of agreement came from the back, but they were swallowed quickly by the louder dissenters. She noticed an older couple, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, who had lived on their land for decades. They looked at her, eyes filled with a mix of pride and concern. Their presence anchored her. Then, a voice echoed over the crowd. It was Mark, the town councillor, often a close ally of Sarah's father. He stepped forward, an air of authority about him. "Sarah, we all recognize your passion, but this can be a lifeline for many families around here. The money can help us expand." She felt herself shrink, the fire in her chest flickering against his practical arguments. What if he was right? What if she was just holding on to nostalgia, while everyone else had their eyes set on a brighter future? Suddenly, she remembered the laughter of children playing in the fields, the scent of fresh earth in spring, and the warmth of community gatherings that defined their lives. And what about our future? She countered, voice rising with determination. If we sell, what is left for our kids? Will they even know the stories of our ancestors? This land symbolizes everything we are. The room pulsated with uncertainty. Some faces shifted from skepticism to intrigue, as whispers danced through the air. "Sarah!" A voice called, breaking through her passionate defense. It was Laura, her childhood friend. "What do we do now? We can't lose hope." The words struck Sarah like lightning. Hope. It had been just a flicker in her heart as life had crumbled. Maybe this was the spark they needed to ignite the community once more. Encouraged, Sarah stepped forward, her mind racing. "We can't give up. It's time we unite. Let us organize a community festival. A chance to remind ourselves why this land matters. It's not just about the money, it's about who we are." The murmurs grew louder, excitement and determination mixing like fire and fuel. She could see the flicker of possibility in their eyes, but it wasn't enough. Would they rally together for their community? Or would fear overshadow hope, leaving them vulnerable to the developer's lure? The tension in the room swelled, and Sarah held her breath, waiting for the next moment to unfold. What would it take to ignite that spark that could truly turn the tide? A stillness settled over the room, a fragile pause where hope and doubt danced in the air. Sarah scanned the faces before her, each one a reflection of her own fears and dreams. What she saw was a mix of uncertainty and budding determination. Could she really lead them back from the brink? "I know change is scary," she began, her voice steady now. "But our strength comes from our unity. We can't just let fear dictate our future." A low murmur coursed through the crowd, her words sinking in as neighbors exchanged glances. The challenge felt colossal, but the flickers of agreement were like the first rays of dawn breaking through a night of uncertainty. "Think about it," she continued, emboldened by their attention. "A festival isn't just a celebration. It's a reminder of who we are. It's our chance to gather as a community, to share our stories, to teach our children and show the developer that we are not just a plot of land to be sold. We are alive. We are our history and our future." One by one, heads started to nod. Sarah could see the flicker of hope igniting a fire in more eyes. Mrs. Thompson caught her gaze and mouthed, "We are with you." Encouraged, Sarah pressed on, "Let us have games, food, music. Let us invite everyone, our friends from nearby towns. We will show that we are proud of our home and that we stand together. The crowd echoed a growing enthusiasm as voices began resurfacing, adding ideas for food stalls, games for the kids, and how to spread the word. Each suggestion added another piece to their emerging vision, and Sarah's spirit soared. It wasn't just about one festival, it was about reclaiming their pride and redefining their community's future. As plans crystallized, a familiar face emerged from the crowd. It was Mike, a neighbor who had lived down the road for years. What if we also included a showcase for local artists? He proposed, his eyes sparkling with inspiration. Their work tells our stories. Yes, Sarah exclaimed, the energy now electric. Let us invite everyone. Let us collaborate. The chatter in the room swelled, enthusiasm reaching a fever pitch. Ideas flowed. Local musicians could perform, neighbors would contribute dishes representing their heritage, and children would create art to be displayed. But with the growing excitement, a thought lingered in the back of Sarah's mind. What if the developer heard about their plans? Would he try to sabotage their efforts? She pushed the worry aside for now. It was time to focus on building their momentum. Let us meet again tomorrow to finalize details, Sarah suggested, her heart racing with the momentum. We can't lose this energy. As the meeting dispersed, Sarah felt a surge of gratitude. Her community was awakening. Each hug, each friendly hand on her shoulder reinforced something miraculous. They were in this together. That realization warmed her heart. Yet, as she made her way out, she couldn't shake a nagging concern. She turned to Laura, who walked beside her. What if the developer tries to shut us down? What if he shows up at the festival? Laura looked thoughtful, her brow furrowing slightly. Then we'll show him just how strong we are. We won't back down. Sarah nodded but felt a twist of anxiety deep within. They were starting something much bigger than a festival. It was an assertion of identity, a statement against erasure. Standing outside, the night air felt electric with possibility. But as Sarah cast one last glance back at the building, she couldn't help but wonder. Would their unity hold strong against the forces threatening to tear them apart? The path ahead was fraught with challenges, and the strength of the community would be tested. What secrets lay waiting? Would they truly be able to protect their heritage from those who sought to profit from their loneliness? Each answer held the weight of their future, and the festival was just the beginning. The sun rose timidly the next morning, casting long shadows across the empty streets of Sarah's town. A sense of urgency pulsed through her veins as she pulled on her favorite jeans and an old sweatshirt, the fabric soft against her skin. She had just a few hours to gather her thoughts and prepare for the meeting. The festival was slowly transforming from a mere idea into a tangible reality, and with every step toward the community center, Sarah felt the weight of her neighbors' hopes resting squarely on her shoulders. As she entered the building, the scent of fresh coffee enveloped her. It was comforting. She made her way to the front, finding Mike setting up tables. He glanced over, a bright smile spreading across his face. You ready for this? He asked, eager energy sparking between them. More than ready, Sarah replied, her heart racing. Half the battle was showing up, she reminded herself. Neighbors started filtering in, carrying plates of pastries and fruit. Conversations swirled like leaves caught in a gentle wind. The room began to feel alive, pulsing with excitement. Sarah felt her nerves settle as the chatter drowned out her worries. Laura arrived next, carrying a notepad filled with ideas. I thought we could make flyers this time, she said, her voice vibrant with enthusiasm. Word of mouth won't be enough. We need to hit social media too. Sarah agreed, noting how the world had shifted. It was no longer just a local affair, they were making a statement. As the meeting commenced, each neighbor contributed, the ideas flying like sparks from a fire. Someone suggested incorporating a talent show for kids, and there were cheers of approval. Another neighbor proposed inviting food trucks from other towns, expanding their reach, and the room buzzed with dreams of bigger gatherings. But amid the laughter and creativity, doubt flickered. What if the developer wasn't just watching, they were waiting for their moment? Sarah fought the thought down, focusing on the laughter surrounding her. They needed to rise above fear. They needed to protect what held them together. Okay, everyone, Sarah began, raising her hands to quiet the room. Let's talk logistics. With so many ideas, we need to organize ourselves. This festival is about more than fun. It's about proving our strength, standing up for our community. Nods of agreement filled the room. The energy crackled, each person a part of something bigger than themselves. During a lull, Mike cleared his throat. And if the developer does show up, he looked around the room, gauging the seriousness of his words. We can't back down. We have to stand together, no matter what. A hush rolled over the crowd, the reality of his statement settling in. It wasn't just a festival, it was a bold act of defiance. A strong voice broke through the silence. If he does try to disrupt, he'll see how powerful we really are. It was Mrs. Thompson, her determination contagious. Sarah felt a swell of pride. Yes. Together, we are unstoppable. As they continued discussing planning details, Sarah noticed a new energy moving within the group, something fierce and determined. Surely, they could face anything together. Later, as the meeting concluded and people began to disperse, the reality of their cause hit Sarah. They were standing at the threshold of a turning point. As she gathered her notes, a text alert buzzed on her phone, pulling her attention away. It was from an unknown number. Are you sure you want to go through with the festival? You have no idea what happens next. The message sent a chill through her. Who was this? How did they know about the festival? Panic began to rise. She glanced around at the smiling faces of her neighbors, all lost in hope and planning. But as she stood there, heart racing, she felt a surge of resolve. She couldn't let fear dictate her actions. They were in this together. Feeling both fear and strength warring inside her, she wondered who would come for them next. And what else was lurking in the shadows, waiting to be revealed. With the sun climbing higher, the day promised warmth, but inside Sarah's chest, a storm brewed. She slipped her phone back into her pocket, the chill of the unknown still electrifying her nerves. Pushing aside the unease, she turned back to the crowd, the hum of chatter and laughter beckoning her. They had worked too hard to let a single ominous message dictate the mood. All right everyone, Sarah called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. We've got a lot to do and not a lot of time. Let us split into groups and tackle our tasks. There was a murmur of agreement as they formed smaller clusters. Sarah joined Mike and Laura at a table stacked with colorful paper and scissors. Together, they began brainstorming flyer designs to promote the festival. Mike sketched a large banner, his enthusiasm infectious, while Laura typed away on her laptop, crafting catchy lines to draw in passers-by. Do you think we should mention the developer in our flyers? Mike asked, glancing up from his artwork. Sarah hesitated. I'm not sure. I want to focus on the fun of the festival, the community aspect. We can't let fear dictate how we present ourselves. Right, Laura chimed in. We're about celebration, not confrontation yet. Hours passed as they mapped out plans and divided roles. By the end of the day, the community center pulsed with the promise of what was to come, the air thick with camaraderie and shared purpose. But as night fell and the last stragglers left, that unsettling text lingered in Sarah's mind. What was meant by, you have no idea what happens next? She wanted to be brave, yet her thoughts spiraled into a labyrinth of worry. The following morning, Sarah awoke with a knot in her stomach. Gathering her courage, she texted Laura. "Can we meet up? I think I need to talk about something." "Of course. I'll be at the cafe in an hour," came Laura's quick response. The cafe buzzed with morning energy. The aroma of brewing coffee and sweet pastries mingled in the air. Sarah slid into a booth, anxiety bubbling beneath her calm surface. When Laura arrived, her bright smile momentarily eased Sarah's worries. "You okay?" Laura asked, her brow furrowing as she noticed Sarah's mood. "I am, sort of," Sarah admitted, biting her lip. "I got a weird text after our meeting yesterday. It freaked me out." Sitting forward, Laura focused entirely on Sarah. "What did it say?" Sarah took a breath, recounting the message. Laura's expression flickered between concern and curiosity. "What do you think it's about?" "I don't know. I'm worried that they know about our plans. Maybe they tried to sabotage the festival," Sarah said, her chest tightening at the thought. Laura placed a hand on Sarah's. "We can't let that stop us. Remember what everyone said in the meeting. We are stronger together." "True, but we need a plan, just in case," Sarah replied, determination hardening her voice. They spent the next hour sketching out contingencies, how to handle if the developer showed up, how to keep everyone safe and focused. Just as they began to feel a bit more settled, Sarah's phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. "You really think a festival will save your town? Wait until you see the truth." Alarm bells blared in Sarah's mind. What was this truth they were hinting at? Panic surged anew, but she pushed it aside. Together, they left the cafe, fear shadowing them. But as they stepped onto the sidewalk, Sarah turned to Laura, her voice firm. "We can't back down. If there is something we need to uncover, we will. Together." Laura nodded, the shared resolve binding them close. The path ahead seemed daunting, but with her friend by her side, Sarah felt a sliver of hope. As they walked towards the community center, they had no idea that lurking just a little ways behind them was someone watching, someone who had their own plans for the festival, and for Sarah's town. What had they been hiding, and would it change everything they thought they knew about their community? The walk to the community center felt different. Each step was heavy with anticipation, and Sarah could feel a strange energy coursing through her, an electric mix of fear and determination. It was a familiar path, but today it was lined with secrets and shadows. As they approached the entrance, Sarah noticed a figure leaning against the wall, one she hadn't seen before. He was tall, with a hood pulled up, obscuring his face. There was something unsettling about him, like he was waiting for them. The moment curved in anxiety, but Sarah forced herself to look away, concentrating on the tasks ahead. Inside, the community center buzzed with activity. Colorful paper decorations swirled in the air as volunteers set up tables and chairs, bringing life to the festival preparations. The warmth of laughter swept through the room, making Sarah's heart beat a little lighter. "Look at all of them," Laura said, nudging Sarah with her elbow. "They want this. We're doing something good." "Yeah, but what if it's all for nothing?" Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if they come in and ruin it?" "Hey," Laura said firmly, gripping Sarah's shoulders. "We drive this ship. We keep it steady." With a soft nod, Sarah joined her friends, throwing herself into the planning. The day dragged, measured in hours of shifting chairs and stacking boxes. But as they crafted flyers and smiles, unease backed into the corners of Sarah's mind, the hooded figure lurking outside still clinging to her thoughts. Just as they settled down for a break, Sarah's phone buzzed again. Tension rippled through her. She opened the message. This one felt different, more personal. Leaving your guard down only makes it easier. You need to know what you're facing. Sarah's heart sank. What does this even mean? She muttered, startling Laura and Mike. Another text. Mike asked, eyebrows raised. Yeah, it's nothing, Sarah lied, hiding the worry now bubbling dangerously close to the surface. Laura leaned in closer, her voice urgent. It's not nothing. You can't ignore this. Whoever it is, they're trying to scare you. I know, Sarah said, swallowing hard. But we have work to do, right? Let us stay focused and hopeful. As they resumed their tasks, Sarah's eyes drifted to the window. Outside, the figure was gone, but an unsettling thought washed over her. What if they had been watching the whole time? What if uncertainty had already seeped into the roots of their festival dream? Their group pressed on, planning fun activities, rounding up food donations, and making calls to local businesses. Yet Sarah still felt it, the weight pressing on her chest, the questions that hung in the air. Finally, one of the volunteers, older and wise, approached them. You seem troubled, dear, she said softly. Sometimes the greatest battles are not fought outside but within. What do you mean? Sarah asked. The fight for hope is a powerful one. Remember, light will always chase away shadows. Just as Sarah began to understand, her phone buzzed yet again. She glanced at it and froze. Another text, but this time it was a photo of her community center, taken from a distance, the hooded figure at the edge of the shot fading into the trees. Her heart raced, dread flooding her veins. We have to find out who this is, she said, her voice shaking but resolute. Laura met her gaze, her eyes wide but steady. We will. Together. As they all turned toward the door, determination radiating from them, Sarah felt the weight of fear shift into something else, a call for justice. They would uncover the truth. Even if it meant confronting whatever darkness lurked beyond their festival dreams. Outside, chills ran up her spine as she stepped into the cool evening air. They had only just begun, and Sarah knew that this wasn't just about the festival anymore. It was about everything they stood for. What awaited them as they chased the shadows? Would they find the truth, and could it handle what they discovered? The chill air wrapped around Sarah as she stepped outside, grounding her against the uncertainty swirling in her heart. She felt the thrill of determination contrasting sharply with the fear from the message she had just seen. The community center buzzed with excitement behind her, but the shadows beckoned. She had to confront this. Let us check the surroundings, she said with a sense of urgency that startled Mike and Laura. They exchanged nervous glances but nodded, ready to follow her lead. They moved cautiously, venturing toward the tree line where the figure had seemed to disappear. The sun was dipping low, casting long shadows that danced eerily on the ground. Sarah's breath hitched as the wind rustled the leaves, creating whispers that felt all too intentional. Maybe it was just some kid messing around, Mike suggested, trying to lighten the mood. But Sarah shook her head. Something felt wrong. This is different. And as they moved closer to the line of trees, a sinking sensation lodged itself in Sarah's stomach. It was like being aware of a storm approaching, the stillness before the downpour. Just then, a snap of a twig sounded behind them, causing all three of them to turn abruptly. Who is there? Laura called out, the concern in her voice unmistakable. They strained to see beyond the trees, hearts pounding like drums in their chests. Then, out from the shadows stepped a figure tall, with dark clothing. The hood was down now, revealing a familiar face. It was Alex, the young man from town who had always kept to himself. Alex. Sarah breathed, gripping Laura's arm. This was unexpected. What are you doing here? Mike asked, his tone a mix of irritation and confusion. I saw you at the center. I wanted to help, Alex said, taking a hesitant step forward. But there was an edge to his voice, a hint that his presence was about more than altruism. Just as Sarah was about to ask him what he knew, the words of that text echoed in her mind. Leaving your guard down help? Or spy? Sarah shot back, wrestling with her instincts. No. I'm not like that. Alex exclaimed, hands raised in defense. You don't understand what is really happening around here. You need to be careful. Careful. Look, we came out here to find out what is going on. Are you in on it? Laura asked sharply. I was trying to warn you. He insisted, gaze darting around as if he feared they were being watched. What do you know? Sarah pressed, her heart racing with both anger and fear. The figure, it's been around for weeks. People are scared, but they don't want to talk about him. Something has been happening in the dark, and it's worse than you can imagine. The dread settled deeper as Alex spoke, each word threading fear through Sarah's heart. Then why didn't you say anything before? I didn't know how. I thought I could handle it alone. His voice trailed off, guilt etched on his features. The evening light began to fade entirely, swallowing the trees in darkness, and with it, Sarah felt the weight of a heavy decision. Her instinct screamed to trust her gut, but something in Alex's tone cut through her reservations. All right. Let us talk, Sarah said, feeling a flicker of hope amidst the shadows. But you need to answer everything. As they made their way back to the entrance of the center, anticipation mixed with anxiety thickening the air. What did Alex know? Why had the shadows followed them so closely? Just as they re-entered the center, they were met by the buzzing crowd, but Sarah's focus remained on Alex. She felt strongly that he was part of something larger, a web they couldn't yet see. Outside, the chill of uncertainty settled on their shoulders like a heavy cloak. As they stepped into the light, Sarah realized they had unwittingly stepped into a much darker game. But what if they couldn't control what was coming? What if the shadows held secrets even deeper than they feared? As Sarah led the way back into the community center, the lively chatter and music seemed to fuse into a single hum that drowned out her thoughts. Despite the familiar warmth of laughter surrounding her, an icy knot tightened in her stomach. She glanced over her shoulder at Alex, his expression a mixture of apprehension and resolve. I swear, I'm not the enemy, he murmured, stepping closer to her. She nodded, still unsure. Just tell me everything you know when we find a quiet spot. They navigated through the crowd, the sound of clinking glasses and jovial banter amplifying the tension that had crept back into Sarah's heart. Mike and Laura flanked her, their expressions reflecting the confusion that hung heavily in the air. Maybe we could duck into the storage room, Laura suggested, her voice barely above the noise. Sarah agreed, and soon they slipped away from the party atmosphere, the door creaking quietly as they closed it behind them. The dimly lit room filled with boxes and forgotten decorations felt like an appropriate sanctuary. Okay, Alex. Start talking, Sarah said, crossing her arms. Alex clenched his jaw, glancing at each of them, then finally settling on Sarah. I noticed the figure just before Halloween. At first, I thought it was a prank. But as the weeks passed, more people started saying they've seen it too. What does it look like? Mike interjected. Tall, wearing a dark cloak, Alex explained, his eyes widening as he spoke. It just appears in the most unexpected places, behind trees, near the old well. And the strange thing. Each time someone spots it, something unsettling happens afterwards. Pets go missing. A few families reported hearing noises at night. Their lights flicker. It's like a curse or something. Sarah's heart raced. And why haven't people come forward? Fear. No one wants to seem delusional, and the ones who notice just try to put it out of their minds. Alex's gaze dropped, guilt washing over him again. But I thought if I stayed quiet, it would go away. So letting it fester was your plan? Laura shot back, her voice sharp. I told you, I didn't know how else to handle it. Alex exclaimed, frustration leaking into his tone. I thought if I could just stay out of it, everyone would be fine. But now that you're involved, it feels like it's only going to escalate. What do you mean by involved? Sarah pressed, emboldened by the urgency in Alex's voice. People who seek out the figure, people like you guys seem to trigger something. I've noticed patterns. The more curious you are, the stronger its manifestations become. It's like it feeds off that energy, the fear, the intrigue. Sarah's mind raced through her memories. The tension in town, the strange happenings she had brushed aside as mere coincidence. They painted a terrifying picture. What do we do then? How do we stop it? Mike asked, his face tightening in concern. I don't know, Alex admitted. But we need to find a way to confront it together. If we try to face it alone, I'm afraid. As Alex's voice trailed off, an uneasy silence enveloped the room. For a moment, all they could hear was the distant music and laughter echoing through the walls, a stark contrast to the seriousness of their discussion. Sarah looked at her friends, who wore expressions of uncertainty, and then back at Alex. We can't let fear control us. We need to figure this out together, she said, determination blossoming within her. But as the resolve settled in the air, a sudden flicker of the overhead light drew their attention. A moment later, it went out completely, plunging them into darkness. What was that? Laura whispered, her voice trembling. Before anyone could respond, a scratching sound echoed from the storage room door, followed by a whisper chilling and low. Help me. They exchanged panicked glances, dread pulling in their stomachs. There was no mistaking it, their worst fears were just beginning to unfold. Stay close, Sarah breathed, her heart pounding as they huddled together. What awaited them outside this room could change everything. But what if the help they sought was far more elusive than they ever expected? The scratching continued, a relentless sound that stirred an instinctive urge to run. But Sarah held her ground, refusing to let fear dictate her actions. Who's there? She finally managed, her voice steady despite the tightness in her throat. Silence enveloped them. Then the whisper came again, more insistent this time. Help me. Laura's grip tightened on Sarah's arm, her breath quickening. What if it's that figure? She gasped, eyes wide. It can't be. It's just a voice, right? Mike said, although his uncertainty betrayed him. Alex shifted nervously, the shadows playing tricks on his face as they moved together, closer to the door. We should check. We can't ignore this. Are you crazy? Laura hissed, a hint of panic rising in her tone. What if it is the entity? Or maybe someone is in real trouble, Sarah countered, feeling a pulse of determination surge through her. We can't just sit here. She reached for the door handle, hesitating for just a moment as they all exchanged wary glances. On the count of 3, she said, her voice firmer than she felt. 1, 2, 3. She swung the door open, the faint glow from the outside illuminating a swath of dust. Their breath caught as they took a cautious step into the hall, each lingering note of the celebration dimming until it faded into a haunting echo. Hello. Sarah called, her voice wavering as it bounced down the hallway. Nothing responded but the soft shuffle of their shoes against the wooden floor. Yet that whisper lingered, filling the air like a ghost. Maybe we should go back, Laura suggested, looking at the shadows that seemed to stretch and recede. But Sarah shook her head. No, we have to find out where it's coming from. They pressed on, the corridor narrowing into a cramped and dusty path leading towards the back of the building. The atmosphere thickened, a heavy weight of uncertainty pressing down on them. With each step, shadows danced along the walls, twisting into shapes that sent chills down Sarah's spine. They approached an old storage room, its door slightly ajar. The scratching morphed into a quiet thudding sound, as if someone was banging against the walls within. "What if someone is trapped?" Mike whispered urgently. As they gathered around the door, Sarah took a deep breath and pushed it open wider. The smell of stale air mingled with something metallic. Against the far wall, a figure hunched over, the outline barely visible in the dim light. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked, her heart racing. "Can you speak to us?" The figure turned slowly, the dim light casting shadows that concealed its features. "You must know the truth," it rasped, eyes wide and terrified. "You're in danger. It's coming for you, all of you." "What do you mean?" Alex stepped forward, his anxiety morphing into protective determination. "They are awakening it," the figure said, trembling. "Your curiosity is too strong. You're drawing its attention. You must stop digging before it's too late." Before they could respond or understand, the lights flickered back to life. The figure shrieked, covering its face, then vanished into thin air, leaving only an echo of fear and confusion behind. They stood frozen, trying to comprehend what just happened. "This just got real," Sarah breathed, her voice shaky. "What do we do now?" Mike's question hung heavily in the renewed silence. "I don't know," Sarah admitted, feeling the depth of uncertainty wash over her. But one thing was clear, they were in this together, and the stakes had never felt higher. As they stepped back into the hall, the festive sounds had transformed into an unnerving symphony of whispers, laughter echoing eerily, as if the party was a veil hiding something darker. They could feel it, the weight of the looming threat. With every heartbeat, the realization settled in, they were no longer just investigating a legend. They were at the center of something that wanted to consume them. "Let us regroup, figure out our next move," Sarah said, the urgency in her voice unyielding. But as she turned, she paused. "What if we've already triggered it?" Dread washed over them once more, knowing they had only scratched the surface of this chilling mystery. And looming ahead was the terrifying uncertainty of what they might discover next. The room erupted with a mix of panic and confusion as Sarah and her friends rejoined the crowd in the community center. Murmurs spread like wildfire, the energy shifting from excitement to anxiety in the blink of an eye. They had uncovered something beyond their comprehension, something dark lurking just beneath the surface of their idyllic small town. Sarah's heart raced as she quickly glanced around. Her neighbors, once bustling with joy over the impending festival, were a collective mask of concern and fear. How could they prove they were still strong when fear fueled their whispers? "Everyone," she called out, positioning herself in front of the audience, her voice trembling but unwavering. "I know things feel chaotic right now. You may have heard stories, seen signs, but we can't let fear take over. We must unite and stand our ground." People shifted uneasily, the haunting presence of that figure and the unsettling warning still fresh in their minds. They glanced at one another, anxiety rippling through the crowd. Seeing their hesitation struck a chord deep within Sarah. This was not just her fight anymore, it was theirs. There was someone in the storage room. Mike shouted suddenly, stepping forward. "They said we're in danger. That our curiosity is drawing it in." "The figure appears when people are scared," Laura added, her voice rising above the murmurs. "We need to come together, not just for the festival, but to face whatever this is." Sarah felt the palpable tension lift ever so slightly. Hope sparkled through moments of disbelief, igniting embers of courage in the hearts around her. "Let us not just react, let us act," Sarah continued. "We have to address our fears, together. We will hold a community meeting right here and now, not just to discuss the festival, but how we can protect each other. Murmurs turned to cautious nods. Sarah felt strength building within her, realizing how important unity was in a time of peril. She could sense the community around her shifting from skepticism to determination. The meeting reformed, and eager faces turned toward her, filled with hope spiraling out from their fear. Let us share our stories. If there is truth in what we've experienced, we can create a plan to confront this threat. Together. One by one, neighbors began to share stories concerning sightings, eerie sounds, and strange occurrences that had unfolded around them. As voices lifted and emotions flowed, a powerful bond began to crystallize. They spoke of watching over one another, paying attention to the flickers of fear that had seeped into their lives. At the festival, we can invite everyone to share their own legends and tales, upcoming glimpses of what might be lurking. It will remind us that we are stronger with our stories. Sarah suggested, a spark igniting the crowd with enthusiasm. A faint clapping started somewhere in the back, growing into a thunderous applause that filled the air with determination. The fear they had been carrying for so long transformed into a fierce commitment to reclaim what was rightfully theirs. This is just the beginning, Sarah proclaimed, taking a deep breath, feeling the tide turn. Let us forge ahead, let us not let a figure or shadow define our town. This land, our homes, our community magic is woven in every story. We will gather, we will stand together, and we will fight for our legacy. As they rallied together, the shared resolve echoed through the community center, their laughter and fierce cries cutting through the darkness that had been creeping closer. Sarah looked around, glowing faces igniting her heart with hope. Weeks passed, the festival day approached, and the preparations transformed into a vibrant reality. Each neighbor worked with a renewed spirit, transforming their land into a joint celebration of their history and resilience. The dark figure faded into the background like an unrealized threat moving further away from the forefront of their minds. Finally, the festival arrived, and as the sun rose, its warm glow enveloped them in a golden embrace, deepening the connection they had forged. Families, friends, and neighbors shared laughter, filled with the warmth of good food and joyous music. Handcrafted displays of art and crafts showcasing their stories painted a brilliant tapestry of their town's history. In a moment of stillness amidst the music, Sarah stood on a makeshift stage, gazing out at the seats filled with familiar faces, families who had come together to not just celebrate, but to claim their joy back from the shadows. The day has finally come, she called out, her voice full of strength. This isn't just a festival, it's a stand for our community, our past, and our future. Let us be proud of our home and the love that binds us. As thunderous applause erupted, Sarah noticed a shift. The shadows that had once loomed large felt diminished, receding into mere whispers lost among the laughter echoing around her. The festival became a powerful statement, resonating far beyond the town. It grew from a celebration to a declaration of their unity against fear, and more importantly, a reminder they would rise together and protect their heritage. No darkness could overshadow their bond. As the evening sun dipped below the horizon, Sarah felt a wave of peace wash over her. They had transformed their pain into purpose, and as she watched families share stories alongside new friendships blossoming, Sarah realized she was not alone anymore. They had become a family woven together, bold and unyielding. And like the glow of the festival lights against the sky, hope illuminated their path forward. Now was the time, no more waiting. They would embrace the future, hands clasped tightly in a bond stronger than any fear that sought to shake them apart. In this moment, they had turned the page together, ready to write their next chapter, and you need to be part of this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others find this transformation. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this uplifting story. don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.